From hardship to hope. Let's
Yes, yes. That's a big story for anybody, and that's a big story for a lot of people, and I love to share my story because I know other people have it, and I want everyone to be able to share their story because hardship happens, and we have a choice.
Hello and welcome to Beyond Diagnosis, a podcast to raise your awareness, decisions, and voice for alternative practices so you can take back control of your health. I'm Rita Michele, your host, a mindset and empowerment coach, and the founder of the ONUS platform. Join me each week so you can create the health of your dreams. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to be speaking with Beth Funtel, who'll be sharing her health story that brought her so much hardship, but even more hope, and how this led for her to become a functional diagnostic nutritionist and a life coach. Hello, Beth.
Hello, Rita.
It's so good to have you here and share your story. It
Thank you.
sounds like, oh, you're welcome. It sounds like it's a big one.
And we can walk toward, hopelessness or hope, and that's not always an easy choice.
And this is going to be great because it's from these type of stories that other people get the inspiration and they can reflect and think, you know what, I can do it too. She did it. She looked
Absolutely.
outside of the box. She found answers. She backed herself, believed in herself, and now you look great. Here you are today. I'm sure so much better than where you were by doing that.
Yes, definitely.
So why don't we start with, let's start from the very beginning of your story of about you and what happened with your health and take us through.
Sure, sure. I think my story is so much like other people's, and they just haven't realized it yet. Is that, I uh, was raised in a loving home, all these things, and one day woke up with allergies, and I will never forget it. It was eighth grade, and my aunt got a cat, and this little cute kitten was in my lap, and nesting down, and I ended up with hives all over my legs, and that had never been the case before. And that was the beginning, and that was when I was much younger. As time wore on, now as I look back, I had known mold exposures. I was on antibiotics for lots of allergy related issues, which, I actually love to marry. I think, traditional and natural medicine can marry beautifully. In
Mm.
this case, we know that that's not the right application for allergies. So as time wore on, I started having some issues, some diagnoses. I was actually working in medical sales. So I would talk to my doctors and say, what about this? What about that I'm having these different symptoms? And, just like most
Can I
people,
just
you get your
interrupt?
testing and it, yeah.
What sort of symptoms and diagnoses were you having when you started talking about it?
Sure. Well, the diagnoses weren't there because everything looked good. All of my blood work was good. To be 22, 23, 24, and have no energy. And, the drive was there, but the energy just wasn't. And then
Yeah.
focus and, short term memory, so many things. And I was young, I was newly married, and then, having kids. And this is what I think about the most. And this is really who my heart goes for is women who are with, children, without children, if they're working, but that 30, 40 age group who is wondering, why do I not have energy? Why can't my brain focus? Why do I honestly, you wake up more tired than when you went to bed, but you couldn't sleep very well. All of these types of symptoms that we attribute to hormones, we attribute to I'm too busy, we attribute to a lot of exterior things, but really we need to look at what's getting in the way of our innate ability to heal. Our body has that innate ability. And there are things in the way, but I didn't know that for many years. I mean, many, many, many years. But I tried everything. I worked in natural medicine. I was basically coaching, excuse me, coaching people through their own protocols with some fantastic people that I worked with. And I was so very, very blessed to work with really great people who got me on the right track as far as understanding and knowing how to critically think through, because right now, too, we're killed with information. It's just everywhere.
So how old were you there, Beth? So you started young, you got the allergies when you were young. Then at 22,
Yeah.
you started speaking to doctors, you had all these symptoms. So take us along the path there from there, what you did.
So, sure. First 2 pregnancies, very easy, and then was not able to conceive out of the blue. And, then checked with doctors, everything's fine, everything's working fine. Was able through some support to have, 2 more pregnancies. One of them was a perimenopausal surge pregnancy. So ladies, watch out, that's real. It does happen.
Menopausal
But just
surge pregnancy.
the hormonal surge, yes.
Oh,
Yes, yes, the surge of hormones. Um, I just was exhausted, and what I sought out were natural practitioners, quite honestly, and I looked at diet. I tried to diet my way, and I don't mean diet to lose weight. I mean, let's cut this out, cut that out, food sensitivity testing, um, looking at all of those things, which can be maddening whenever and they've gotten better, and so now they're testing all the ingredients in our food. So you have to, it's like a matrix to try to put that together. And if some things brought some relief, to me, and sometimes, more energy, more focus, that type of thing, but there wasn't long term. I have taken myriads of supplements, handfuls at a time, which, again, sometimes would make the problems worse. Um, Really, there wasn't a great answer. And so I limped along and I kept trying various things. In addition to this, then my kids have some learning differences. We had some health struggles with Lyme and mold along the way, and those were huge, huge,
yeah.
huge. And, walk through those. But actually, it was through all of that. Whenever I went to work for a doctor here in the states and learned about cell health and about how you have to really detox the cell. And when I see detox the cell, I don't mean a 7-day detox where you feel awful. It's got to be guided. You have to have somebody to hold your hand along the way to help you walk through any symptoms that you may have. That's really where I found healing, which was interesting because I was heavier than I'd ever been, because mold will do that to you. You tend to either lose weight or gain it. The rest of my family lost, I gained.
Always the
um,
way.
and exactly. Well, there was also intense stress, of course, with, there was Lyme and then we found mold. So, and they go hand in hand. We know that mold suppresses the immune system so that the Lyme can wake up. So, at the height of my stress, as you're coming out of this, is really whenever I started to work on getting my cell health in order. And only until I did that, really focused on upstream stressors, was I able to regain energy, really get, when my brain, I can remember things, my focus. It's funny, when I'm talking to clients, I will write their phone number down and say, you just witnessed part of my healing. I couldn't remember a phone number, not anybody's. I mean, 7 numbers in a string was too much for me. So it
Mm.
was it was very great. But, once I got to that point and figured that out, and interestingly, I've now applied this knowledge to my family, and my kids will say, what did you do to me? I can remember things. I have, more energy. They're having the same experiences, because we do pass down as mothers for 4 generations. There's a study called the DRASH study. We pass down toxicity to our children, and it comes through the mom,
That is
unfortunately.
proven, yeah.
So yes, yes. And I had, for me specifically, I had so many mercury fillings in my mouth. And
Mm.
we know that they off gas every time you chew. And that's definitely passed down. And just in our environment, I mean, I think the EPA says 89,000 environmental toxins that we marinate in every day. And we can sit in fear of that, which we don't need to do. That's, sometimes I don't even like to share that, because people get so stressed about, well, what do I do? I mean, it's just kind of hopeless. Again, what you said is, we have to drive forward to try to find our answers. And really what gave me hope and kept driving me on was a lot of my family is, my children and my husband, because I'm looking at them thinking, how do I help them? I'm the one with any knowledge base in this family as far as health wise. How do I how can I do better? How can I do
Mm.
better? How can I do better? I am sure I had a million missteps along the way. Many.
Yeah.
Um, yes, we do. We do have missteps, but then we have to forgive ourselves big, with one of this is impactful to so many of my clients when I say, if you wouldn't say it to your best friend, don't say it to yourself. There's no reason to beat yourself up like that ever. Your best friend's not going to say it to you. You need to stop saying it to yourself.
It's a big one, isn't it? That negative self-talk, because it really does downgrade everything. It not only downgrades your feelings, your mental health, the way you live your life, it impacts absolutely everything. Everyone just thinks, maybe I've just had a negative thought, or I've just had a bad day, but that actually is impacting the way you behave throughout your life, is that
Hmm.
negative self-talk.
Hmm.
And then it ends up
Hmm.
impacting your family. Is
It
that,
does. It does.
yeah.
I actually, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, is that what you found? That that negative
I
self-talk impacted your family?
I found that yes, it did, and so did the positive self-talk.
Mm,
Yes, it definitely did. And I tend to be a glass half full person, thankfully.
good.
And whenever it was hard, it was that was a great thing. And the other thing is you surround yourself with people who can lift you up. If you're around people who are constantly telling you, you know what, you should just give up. Why are you doing this? This doesn't even make sense. It's not working. You spent Let's not even talk about the financial load that this brings on, like finances, and you've spent time and energy, and why don't you just let your kids eat the cookies all the time, whatever.
Yeah.
You can surround yourself with the right kind of people, and those are hard choices sometimes, but we have to make those hard choices. And I said my family motivated me, but now I motivate me,
Mm,
because we have to trust our innate, we have to trust ourselves as women to use our critical thinking skills, which is a little bit lost. We really need to use those skills to be able to weed out the messaging. We get messages. I started my life in advertising and marketing, and I understand the power of messaging and how we are constantly all day long, especially in our culture.
mm.
And we have to step back, trust ourselves to be able to look at things critically and say, and when I say critically, I don't mean negatively, but critically, and say, what is good for me and what is not. And when I say good for me, not going to hurt others. We want to be a little holistic here too. But what's going to do well for me and my body and my family and my lifestyle? And what can I leave? What can I just walk away from? Just because somebody said it on Instagram didn't mean it's true. Go research it. Do a lot of research and
Like,
and vet that. Super important. Yes.
super important.
Super honestly, that's probably, yes, I have some important messages. The one is be kind to yourself. The other is trust yourself. The other is research it.
Yeah,
Definitely.
exactly.
And I want people to hold me accountable because I'm out there giving some messages. But let's make sure that, and the other thing is biodiversity. We are
Mm,
all different human beings. This diet may not work for me. It may work beautifully for you. This,
that's
various biohacks, whatever it is, like we have to be able to receive what's good for us and let other people do what works for them. And that's okay. That's a good thing.
absolutely. I love that message because it is so true. Like, we are all individual. We can't, one protocol doesn't work for everybody. Just like,
Yeah.
even if we were to look at traditional medicine, one medication doesn't work for everybody. You can't have, even one supplement doesn't work for everybody. There are so many intricate things happening in each person's body that to say, just take this, you're going to be fine, or this will work, detox you, look at the results I've had. That's why you're saying the
Mhm,
critical thinking, just love it. That is so important. Just because someone's influencer or someone's saying it on the internet doesn't make it true. You have to do your research. You have to look at the white papers on it. You have to then have a look at a
mhm,
pharmaceutical grade of it. There's an incredible amount of research before you actually put something in your mouth. So I
mhm.
love
Yeah.
that's that real taking ownership and responsibility
Mhm.
for your health.
Yes.
So please, I want to hear more.
Well, and that's really what I aim to teach people. That's really what I'm launching in the next few months is critical thinking, like courses about, or like lives. I don't know how it's going to happen exactly yet, but we have to take a critical look at things, and that kept me going. My faith, I am a Christian and I love the Lord. I don't ascribe to any particular anything other than that, but my faith has really kept me walking through this. And one thing that's interesting, that another piece of my story is surrender. And when we think about surrender, we think about laying down and giving up. And when we surrender to the Lord, it looks a little different. It
Mm,
looks like giving up to the one who wants to be able to guide our steps and be able to work through that way. So really myself and my family, we all learned massive, and I'm sitting here with my hands up because I'll say to my kids, okay, are you like this or are you like this? And it's just surrendering. And that's also a position when you take your hands palms up like this and lay them on your lap. It's a beautiful step of relaxation. And so I just, rest into the surrender to the Lord. And that really, really, through the hardest times, that's really what got me going and how I look at that, because it sounds lovely. It sounds very island paradise, right? It
mm.
was definitely going down the rapids with no life vest, head first, with literally my nostrils sticking out of the water, but knowing I was being held. So that's huge. That's where I am now. I feel like that's where I can trust myself because I surrender to that greater power.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. It sort of plays it depending on people's preference, whether it's religion, excuse me, or spirituality, or others just have that intuition and that beautiful knowing. But it all plays back into, the whole, it goes back to the whole mind body experience. And like you were saying before, that negative self talk and how that affects our bodies. And people don't realize that, the mind can't distinguish whether that's a negative thought externally or whether that's a negative thought about you. It hasn't got that distinction. So that's where you have to be so careful. And I suppose for you, the beautiful practice of surrendering, to the Lord, religion, others to spirituality, is what can bring in that balance and that positivity, but deep, not just positive on the surface, at a very deep level. I really like that. That's lovely.
What you just said about messaging. We talked about messaging earlier, external. That internal messaging, when we say I'm blank, your brain hears it. It does. You
Mm,
know that. And
mm,
that's if it's positive or negative, I'm blank. I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm tired, even if it's not, it's just a statement like that. It does, our brain hears it, and we pick that up. So I really we self-affirmation is very good. I feel great today. I'm going to have a great day. If you don't, that's the other thing. If you say it, your body can know that you're lying to it. I'm sick. I feel great. That's not really true, but I'm going to move in the right direction today. Let's be honest with that, but spin that on the positive. And it's a practice of really, it's not about this great feeling, it's about recognizing those negative thoughts, taking them captive, and reprogramming that into something positive. But it has to be very intentional. And I think
mm.
when we look at that intention, then that's really where we can start to make that shift from that negativity to positivity.
And what sort I want to circle back in a minute. I'd like to circle back to, uh, especially for our listeners who are struggling with some form of chronic illness or long term, they're not getting the answers. A little bit back to what you were experiencing and who you saw. And
Mhm,
I want to circle back to the upstream, downstream, what you talked about there, the cellular health there, and explain a little bit more about that. But right now, I just want to hear a little bit more about what changes did you start feeling, or did your health
mhm,
accelerate when you started surrendering to God? What did
mhm.
you feel started happening?
Yes, a great reduction in stress because I knew that my goal was to just keep walking, and that was when it was crushing. So, just to give you a little snippet into that window,
Mm, mm,
I had a child that was diagnosed with Lyme who was very, very sick. We found mold in our house, and we were very deeply betrayed by family. And that combination in that timing, that was probably a 6-month period, and it was crushing. It was crushing physically, emotionally, financially,
mm,
literally in every way. And that surrender was just waking up at 7 a.m., knowing I had to go meet contractors at the house. And just literally, people say, just keep walking, just keep swimming, whatever it is just keep moving. That coupled with staying positive. It's easier to stay positive when you have 8 little eyes watching you. I have children, and all these children are watching me. And, yes, and I will tell you though, I did not pretend to be Superwoman, nor do I think that's healthy. They watched me weep for about 2 years. But
mm.
I would weep, I would get up, and I definitely I'm not great at hiding my emotions. I have tried to be demure and channel
Not
Audrey
many of
Hepburn
us
and
are good at it.
no, not great, not great. But I think it's important for our kids to see that healthy struggle. They don't need to, of course, be privy to everything, but when they're watching, and the world is what. And I will tell you, I had a friend who called me every day just to see how I was. It was a 2-minute conversation. And how are you? Are you okay? Are you moving? You're moving. Beth, people would not keep moving through this. People would lie down. And to me, there was just no choice. I didn't have that choice. So you just keep walking. And like I said, sometimes you make mistakes, but you know the direction in which you need to go. It's never a straight line, not with our marriages, not with our businesses, not with our lives.
Mm,
And to own that and understand that, and don't live in the expectation that every once in a while we're going to fall off a cliff. We will. Don't wait for the other shoe to drop. Live for what you have right now and do great with that. But just don't stop moving. Don't stop looking for answers. You will come across the right person. You will come across the right practitioner. You will, when you trust yourself in that critical thinking,
mm.
you can find answers. They will be revealed to you in the right time.
They will, they will. That's a beautiful message. What was it that you were actually diagnosed with when you started, seeing all different practitioners to then lead you to the doctor that talked about the cellular health? Were you actually
Sure.
diagnosed with something?
I was diagnosed with high blood pressure. I had thyroid issues. I was pre diabetic,
Mm,
all three of those things. And there was plenty that I probably wasn't diagnosed with because I tend to natural practitioners. I have always, after I left medical sales and realized that wasn't the direction I wanted to go, I tended toward natural medicine, which is less diagnostic. Quite
yes.
honestly, it's more let's look at the symptoms and put those things together. But those three diagnoses were present: high blood pressure, pre-diabetes, and thyroid issues.
And that led you to then find a traditional doctor? Was he a traditional doctor, the one?
No. So he is a chiropractor and does he has a program. I don't know if people are familiar with him, but he does a lot of cellular health and is brilliant at it and healed himself. And it's how it worked out is that I was working for his organization, and you can, try the program. So I
Right.
tried the program. I thought my thought was, what do I have to lose? I've done everything else. I've done everything else. I have no more money. I have very little time. I'm getting older. I want to live. If we have one day left, we want to feel good and live, and be able
Mm,
to experience in fullness. And so I started on his protocol, and on day 6, noticed a massive shift in my brain, a massive shift in my energy and my brain focus.
that's
And
amazing.
that was, let me tell you, at that point, we're just opening drainage pathways. So, I mean, we talk about, we have to open drainage pathways. So that was just opening up drainage pathways. I was removing nothing at that point.
So the drainage pathway, that was very interesting. I was actually speaking to a practitioner yesterday on the podcast about the lymphatic system and the drainage pathways. So when you say the drainage pathways, so you opened up your lymphatic system, is that right? And you
Yes.
just found
Yep.
that that was actually getting the toxins out of your body by doing that?
Well, that's the body's natural way to get rid of them. Yes. I mean, that's the innate a way to get rid of them. So the pileup slows down, because just because, we're in this place, it doesn't mean the toxins aren't still producing. So in those drainage pathways, we can actually get even what we're experiencing today moving out, because we kind of marinate in these every day. And so when we have exposures, when your lymphatic system's open, even though I, had other metals, and I was diagnosed with various metals in, mercury, aluminum, arsenic, which is interesting. It's in rice, very much in rice. Though we can't go vilify rice either, because some people do great with it. My body just holds on to that. Everybody's body is different. Um, so even though I wasn't removing what was kind of stuck in my body, I was allowing the load that I was receiving every day to get out. And then I was able to, you don't want to detox until you've opened up and until you've opened those drainage pathways. That's when you start to get sick. That's when you have, Herx reactions and things like that.
So you mentioned before, which I'm really curious about, is like that's you mentioned the cellular health and upstream causes. I love this line of upstream causes of downstream symptoms. Can you talk
Yeah.
about what are upstream causes of downstream symptoms?
Yeah. So, things like metals, heavy metals, glyphosate, which is, Roundup sprayed on things, the chemicals that we sit in. I mean, if we have fake leather, we know that there is, lead being exposed. Aluminum is just in the ground. I go to the farmer's market and buy organic vegetables that are grown in soil that just naturally has aluminum in it. So, those grab onto that. And it's how the body can rid itself of those things. But when you get your load becomes so high, the body's function downgrades. So is that, if we're working normally and the toxic load starts to increase, the
Is
body
that the
function
upstream?
downgrades.
So you're saying the toxins for our listeners. So the toxins is the upstream and the
Yes, the
downstream.
toxins are
So the toxins are the
the
upstream.
downstream, like, yeah. Yeah, toxins are upstream. So in your brain, we know that there are certain metals that stay in your brain, some that stay in your bones, some that sit in your fat, and they go different places, and we know that. And where those are stored. And then the downstream symptoms are brain fog, exhaustion, thyroid issues, autoimmune issues. These things, even genetics can turn on whenever our load is too high. That's what triggers our genes to turn on the bad genes we don't want turning on to, cause various diseases that come along the way. So
Mm,
those upstream, we think about a river, I explain it this way, and we
mm.
have a dam way up at the top of it. Downstream is a dry riverbed. We can throw any supplement in there we want. We can, put in fish food to think we're going to grow fish in this dry riverbed. But there is a dam here. The body knows how to heal itself. What we need to do is remove this dam in pieces so that that innate ability can happen, and we're able to just let the body do what it knows how to do, and
Yeah.
support it along the way, of course. But our bodies are very, very smart. Think about muscle memory. I was a dancer and I just started working out again. And I was so excited that my muscles remembered after like more than years than I care to think about of not working out. But our bodies are that same way. We have that innate memory as far as what it's supposed to be doing.
Fabulous. So, why did you become a functional diagnostic nutritionist?
So years ago, about 20 years ago, it had really been impressed upon me to, that is where I would be landing. And I lost hope in the systems, even the natural medicine system, because you can get the runaround, you can get a lot of different things happening there. And, I want to say too that I don't believe anyone is intentionally out to hurt people and their health. I do believe that for the most part, practitioners really are for you and
Mm,
want to be helpful.
mm,
And we do the best with what we have at the time. We all do. We do when we have this knowledge, we make the best choices right with what we
right.
have.
It's
So we
true.
can't beat ourselves up for what we didn't know. And I do believe that practitioners are the same way and they're doing the best that they can with what they know. Um, and so we have better science now for sure, but I didn't feel like I could help anybody. I thought, you know what, I've tried all these things. I'm not getting better. People I know that are doing the same things, running around after our health, we're just not improving.
Mm,
And once I started to improve, I thought, okay, there are some reasons. And I chose the functional diagnostic nutrition program, which I have to say I absolutely love. I'm very, very grateful that I chose that certification. You learn to read tests in a different way, in a functional way, but it's really a deep dive on upstream causes and working through, and we go through what's called a DRESS protocol. So diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction. And that last S is supplementation because there's a lot to do before we throw supplements at people. There are a lot of things that we can do is, wake up in the morning and get sunlight in your eyes first thing and then get as the sun goes down, get sunlight in your eyes as the sun goes down will help cortisol, help circadian rhythms. Will it fix everything perfectly? No, but there is a lot you can do. Stress reduction is huge. I mean, so many things.
yeah.
We live in such a world and exercise. People over 40, we as women over 40, we are not going to get in shape doing what we did in our 20s and 30s. Now it's a very different picture. And so, just in helping people how to really customize what's best for them. And I feel like this training was incredibly solid after having the privilege of being able to look at a lot of different things through my working in natural medicine for so long. Excuse me, I'm very grateful.
It sounds like, you can really give people that grassroots help. Like, it's really start at the
Hmm.
base and then move up. I loved listening to
Yes.
your story. It is just
Oh,
that definite picture of, someone who has these symptoms that arrive. You don't know what they are, but you've gone out and you've tried everything. You haven't given up. What I try to encourage people with these stories is that you may see one or two people and it hasn't worked for you, but don't give
mm,
up. You cannot give up on your
right.
health. And I love it that
No.
you found your self-worth, that you were worth it, your kids are worth it, your health is worth it, and you turn to God to find the stress reduction and the mind body aspect of it, which is beautiful. It's been great, and I'm so glad it's led you to do fabulous work where you can give value and help so many other people. What a beautiful journey, or it's been a hard journey, but what a beautiful ending to your journey. you know it's been, I
Has
love
been
I
a
love
hard
it.
journey.
Yeah.
I hope everyone that has a hard journey recognizes their journey and can share. Our mess is our message, as we know. We walk through the wilderness to be able to lead people to through that path. And so that's really why I do what I do, because I really am excited to be able to marry health coaching and life coaching. It's such an important marriage. And excuse me, I just really I want people to recognize their hardship and their hope, because there's always hope. There's always hope.
You have to have hope. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to develop that intrinsic drive and have the hope, because without hope, you're not going to do it. Everyone wants to have a piece of their life back. If you're not well, you want to be well. You want to be the way you were before. You may not get exactly back to where you were, but you'll get maybe 80% back to where you were. But without hope, you're not going to try. So that's why your
Yes.
message is so good. It's that resilience, it's that self-advocacy. I love it. It's been
Yes.
so lovely speaking to you, Beth. This has been a great message for people to hear about resilience. Keep going, look for alternatives. And then if you're called to at the end, find work in the field, and serve other people.
Exactly.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It becomes, you've closed the circle, so to speak. You've come.
Oh, I have. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's been
Thank you
great.
for that. I hadn't thought about that. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. And for any of our listeners and our viewers, if you're struggling to find answers on the cellular level, Beth is here to help. All her details will be in the show notes. Please reach out. She's willing to help. Do yourself a favor, back yourself, and get the help you need. Thank you, Beth. It's been a pleasure listening to your story.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Rita. It's a pleasure. I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. I would love to know, what was the biggest insight or aha moment you got from this interview, so you can now speak up, take action, and make informed decisions for your health. And if you like this episode, get instant access to your free ebook, Alternative Wisdom, Taking Back Control of Your Health, at life-onus.com.